Don't dislocate your arm patting yourself on the back.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Darksiders 3 Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. This is going to be covering the dead highway that leads to Lust. We've just toppled the angelic champion guy, and I'm making a mistake right now, which you need to learn from, guys. I'm breaking things in this area, which has a lot of things to break, but I still have the Enoch attachment, which gives me damage rather than orbs. So don't do this. That moment, that clarity, that realization that I'm not using the demonic Leviathan, which is the one that you need to get the benefits. And I probably missed out on maybe 50 to 100 orbs just then, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up. And it's always good at trying to meter out that extra level or buy that extra demonic artifact or whatever it is that you're trying to get to help you have a better chance of surviving in this game. But we're going to be moving through an area coming up that is incredibly dangerous. It has a lot of enemies. It has a normal enemy, which is the enemy that you can fight as a boss to get the essence of the Chosen in the catacombs. Who, if you remember the Flame Warden, the guy that I haven't shown, because he beat me up for ages, he is now a normal enemy, and he teleports around doing incredibly high damage moves and hitting you with his 3-hit combo, and just generally being a bit of a pain in the ass. And then there are also going to be strange zombified angels that have the ability to do a very powerful projectile, and they chase you all kinds of places because they can fly, of course. When you combine these all together, dying very quickly and having very versatile and dangerous enemies, it leads to some very troubling areas. Handily, I'm going to be running past most of it. As I've expressed in this walkthrough, there are a lot of times when oftentimes the best option is to just flee. So I recommend you run around this first area, picking up all of the treasure, because there's a lot of treasure around that tree that's got the hung men. And before you come over here and start messing around with throwing the weapon and everything, you definitely want to do that. And of course you want to take out the guy over here, who is the black enemy with the red eyes, because he's going to give you resources that are going to give you the old Adam Teeny, and it's going to enable you to make the Apple Teeny and then create the ultimate weapon, and hopefully your Barbs of Scorn will pay you dividends. But once again, do not knock these people into the water, because you might miss out on the resource. And it's one of the weird things that this game does, that it doesn't have a system in place to give you the things you should get if something were to happen to the thing that you're killing. And I don't know if it works with those ones, because it didn't seem like he dropped anything. It seemed like he gave me that piece of adamantine. So I'm not entirely certain of how that works, but just a bit of food for thought to make sure that you don't miss out on any valuables. But did you see that then, when I broke that collection of spirits? It gave me 3,000 orbs. That's the reason why you don't have to fight anything, guys. That being said, of course, the fighting in this game, once you get used to the systems and once you get used to how it works, it can be fun and it can have its advantages. This is an action game after all. You kind of want to get into the spirit of what it is. It's so effective sometimes to just kind of piss off. And if you remember over here, once this mid-level load finishes, this is the warehouse across from where we were entering the room where the angelic champion was, and in here it's going to show us a couple of the angels that are going to be knocking around. He's the first one, the spectral angel. There's another one of those beefy mid-level lords, and there's a big cheap hit coming here as well. Be careful of him. He loves to just catch you on the edge of that corner, and because there's a lot of people on me right now and I just took that hit, it's not safe to heal. So instead I activate Havoc mode, I run down here, and then I hit the Vulgrim station in the invincibility, and then I'm going to turn this off, and then I'm going to get on with the next part of the mission. And that's one of the greatest parts of using Havoc mode. You are completely invincible. Every time you take a hit though, it bleeds even more so from your timer. And there's another one of those wonderful mid-level lords. These are the things that I've been trimming out, guys. And I've left a few of them in here just to give you an idea of what you deal with the game. I know a lot of people like to watch a walkthrough like this to get an idea whether or not they want to even touch it or purchase it or rent it. And it's best to kind of be transparent. There are some interesting performance problems that this game has, and there are times when these loading zones turn up. This is the area with the warden, by the way. Be very careful now, this gets really dangerous. So once you're up here, make sure as you come over here, jump, do the quick descent, and then go into the vent immediately. because you're going to get bombarded by an angel that's very fast and very dangerous, and if that warden teleports and starts attacking you, you're dead. And he takes an incredible amount of punishment before you can put him down as well. Even with my damage, he takes a beating. Unfortunately, these walls are an ability we don't have, but then the game gives you the ability to just use the lightning, which is handy too. But you'll notice that this guy is similarly just an angel. He's exactly the same as them, but because he's maybe an elite or a more powerful variant, he now has the ability to dodge out of your hits. And there's an area coming up called the Scar, where there are enemies that you beat up at the beginning, and then a little bit further in you get a stronger version of them, and he does the exact same thing. And you can spot it immediately. You hit them about twice and then they start dashing away. And the dash is just the right amount of range so that Fury's whip misses. And it's one of those programmed evades that enables them to maybe get a quick hit in. And you need to be aware of this because the amount of times you're going to just finish ever so short of an enemy and they're probably just going to smack you in recovery happens quite a lot. But a couple more of these crazy angels along with the enemies that throw the poison at you. But over here we have a whipping station, and only the angel can follow you now, and he will because he's an arsehole, but you get iframes when you use that switch, and I think at this point he kinda doesn't want to follow anymore. So you can go and beat him up if you want to, but I try to bait him with the projectile and he doesn't come, so I leave him. And then now we just have to do a puzzle that involves using the friendly bug again. And I'm going to do this puzzle, I'm not going to say wrong, even though it is wrong. I throw the bug into the room, then proceed to go outside the room so I can come back in and then use the bug. But the bug doesn't go to where it's supposed to go and turn into the crystallized explosive, so I have to go and mess with the switch again. So there's one part of this where you need to do it a little bit differently than I did, and it's just this right now. So do you notice how the bug needs you to move forward? If you don't do that, I think he dies, or it leaves or something. You need it to do what it does there. It has to feed on whatever that strange purple nectar is for it to stay where it is and become a viable tool for the next part. So this part right here, I throw it over here because she can't grab a ledge while she's holding this. She's a pretty weak horseman, this one, apparently, plot reasons. And then is he gonna come this way? I'm trying to see. I don't know, man. I feel like, oh, it must be the next one then, because that's correct. There's nothing wrong with that. It must be the next part. Yeah, I don't do this correctly. So amend your strategy, guys. Make sure that the bug sits on the purple stuff before you continue on. You see, I just assumed it'd do it, but it doesn't. That's something worth talking about as well. The purple nipply thing that's on the wall just there, that is an item that you're going to need the next ability we get when we beat Lust to break. But when you break it, it's going to give you incredible things. It gives you lurchers that are large, it gives you resources that will upgrade your Barbs of Scorn. It's a fantastic way of getting a lot of cool things. And when you get the ability to turn into the Force Hollow, you want to then go around and find all of those purple areas that you didn't see before, because it's really, really valuable. I can't begin to tell you just how much cool stuff you can get, and it's just going to pay dividends for later on, to make your journey easier. But you'll notice, bug isn't here. Bug isn't doing what it's supposed to have done, and I don't really know why it didn't do it, but it is my mistake. So, handily, we can flick the switch again, and then we can use our buddy that we've just brought down here to jump across, and it doesn't really hurt us too much on time. But for some reason, if the bug doesn't get incentivized to go near the spot, he just must wander off. And I have no idea how it happened, because I felt like I did it okay, but if I was a speedrunner just then I would have been pissed off. And I wasn't even a speedrunner, I was still pissed off. It's just one of those things. When you're making a walkthrough such as this, the last thing that you want is to have to repeat an action that you only have to do a certain amount of time, because all it does is confuse people. It's the worst thing in the world, especially when I have to start crossfading and trimming things together because things don't line up and I have to remove stuff and add stuff. When you start doing that, the video can start getting confusing and then you can lose people. And if you make a walkthrough that's difficult to follow, you've not done a good job. But right here, I was wondering if I could hit that guy back up there, because I never tried it on my first run. But it seems like he gets cock-blocked, so it's not a viable strategy. But he's going to let us get onto the highway coming up, and the highway is going to be filled with all kinds of terrible things. There's a bunch of angels, there's a griffin, but once you get past them there is a Vulgrim station, so it's a little bit of a gauntlet, it's a bit of a game of bulldog, and I'm getting trolled by the jump right now because it's my favourite part of the game. She's not going to grab the ledge, is she? No, she's not. Yeah. Interesting moments these, when you're just like, why can't I make a simple jump? Why have I become a disabled person immediately and now I can't play the game? And it would have been easy to trim that out, you know, but I feel like there's an honesty to it that deserves to be in the videos. Admittedly, my spacing wasn't the best, but there are times when Fury should grab ledges and she doesn't, and it's really confusing. And I think it just kind of compounds just how dodgy the fucking jumping is in this game. And a true story as well, the other day I went back to Spyro after I'd recorded this because I wanted to play something relaxing while I watched Count of Monte Cristo, which is a great movie if you've never seen it, based on a fantastic book. And I couldn't believe just how capable Spyro felt with his jump coming off of this game. Like, I was really happy with Spyro. I wasn't happy with the motion blur that game has, because when you go from playing, you know, a game at a good frame rate on PC and then go back to that, it's really tough on your eyes. But I was just so pleased by Spyro's controls, because I never once felt like the jump fucked me. I felt like every time I missed a jump it was my fault. And I love that. Whereas in this game I feel like the double jump just exists to mock you. It's really silly. But if you're wondering about the frame rate on this game, guys, obviously, because in some of these areas the frame rate is stuttering every so often, it does it a lot. There's only one area of the game that is completely free of stutters, to the point where you can see just how beautiful the game would look if it ran properly, and that's the underwater section in the depths. It's a really bizarre section, and the only thing I can think of is that it's an instanced area that doesn't generate the rest of the world, so the frame rate and the performance and everything can just be perfect, because it moves really nice. And if you go into the config files, you can get rid of the limiter on the frame limit, and you can make the frame limit go higher than 60 if you want to. It doesn't really make too much of a difference, because the performance issues that the game has are happening on really, really good hardware, so you're not going to get it so that the game just runs better, but you're going to be able to hit higher numbers, and if you have a higher refresh rate, I don't even know if you can change the refresh rate on the game, I couldn't find it, but it can benefit you in ways that are not apparent to certain players. Because if you want to know the lowest common denominator answer for it that just kind of gets across what you need to understand, higher the frames, the more responsive. You know, the more information you get visually. And you'll notice right now this place is performing quite poorly. I am running past everything, which in itself is going to make the game have a tougher time. But it's also, there's a lot of things happening here. And if you want to get better performance, turn down your shadows to medium. And if you want to get, if you're still having problems, you might want to try changing something else. Maybe change the foliage to low. I never had to do that because, once again guys, when I turned settings down, it didn't make a difference. I think the game just kind of runs shitty. And when your CPU isn't spiking, and when your machine isn't struggling, you know that it's not your end, it must be the optimization. But here is the Kraken. So if you back up completely to this corner on this platform, he can't hurt you. He's going to do 2 slashes. There's the left slash followed by the right slash, and then he's going to do a double-handed hammer fist that misses the middle, but hits you with a shockwave. So after that hit, if you hit all his eyes, you can kill him really quickly there. But the control of this aiming mode is a little fiddly, and it's not my favourite. The detection when you have to hold the left trigger to make it lock on is kind of fucking stupid. I don't understand why you have to hold 2 buttons to make something work. It should just be 1 button. I feel like there's 1 extra button there and it's awkward and it doesn't work right. And you want to be really careful too throwing this weapon when you're fighting or when you're running, because when she catches it, it stops her from running. So you have to run again. And one of the things I haven't spoke about in this walkthrough, because it's not really important, is I was playing on a controller that I thought was broken. I had a wired Xbox 360 controller from a few years back, and I wound it up and stuffed it under my desk because it wouldn't work anymore, and I just ignored it. And I was going to throw it away, but I never got round to it. And I didn't have a controller to play this game, and I was getting really pissed off because I couldn't get the fucking DualShock to be recognised with my PC, even though I used all the third-party software, because I think my micro USB cable's not very good. And I was borderline immensely pissed off. But then I looked under my desk at all my broken controllers that I've managed to hoard for no reason. And then I pull this one out and I plug it in and it started working. But the problem with it is, the analog is so knackered, my thumb has greasy melted off almost all the top of it, so it feels super weird to touch, and it drifts like a bitch. So, combine the drifting with the fact that the L3 doesn't work so good, it made Lust really, really difficult, because I couldn't run. I was clicking the fucking pad, and the girl wasn't running. So I had to click it sometimes 4 times to make her run. And in this fight, when you're running a lot, and my strategy involves running, it gets really dangerous. But my strategy for Lust is to actually be quite passive rather than aggressive, because she punishes aggressive with 2 very fast moves that are hard to dodge. And that is a really aggressive phase 1, because I was fighting her for far longer than I should be. But the principle is the same from phase 1 and phase 2. This is when it won't run, by the way, guys. I'm trying to make it run, but it won't run. And it was really scary. Like, run! Please run! And there it is, my controller works finally. So if you ever see me walking in this section, I'm clicking the left analog and it's not working. But all you do, guys, is you bait her stance so she does her running attack, and then you run around her right shoulder and hit her in the back once. You never want to hit her more than once unless you're playing on another difficulty or unless you've got a lot of HP, because if she blocks, she can counter, and it's very difficult to get away from it, because you don't know what she's going to do. She has, I think, 4 moves that she can do. 2 of them are slow, 2 of them are fast. If you guess wrong, you'll get hit by the other one. And the first phase is the tricky part. The second phase is actually really easy once you understand what you can do here. But you need to be aware as well. The angel, Ulciel, on his left foot, if you run past him too close to his left foot, he'll hit you with the bell. It has a massive hitbox, and it has a second hit as well. You can simply sprint past him and not dodge. It does work. I've done this fight without using the roll, because I got a really good no-roll strategy, but then when I was playing it for the recording, I didn't get any of the luck that I got before, and I got really bad patterns. So you'll notice, every time I run past Usil, I dodge once, and then I dodge immediately again. And the reason for that is because I kept getting clipped by bullshit that never clipped me before. I was getting very unlucky, but this is all you do. It's a patience game. The first time I did this, I was hitting Lust for 200 damage, so this phase took about 10 minutes. And once you understand that all you really need to do is make sure both of the bosses do not line up their running attacks, and that's it. If they do, and it gets out of a good pattern, don't engage. Just be defensive, kite them around the room, make sure that you get them into a space where you're comfortable. And the one thing you need to bear in mind as well is there's a few different areas of geometry in this room. Some areas where you're taller than you are in others, especially on the steps. So if she runs at you and you do that running strategy that I'm going to do on those steps, she will hit you because it will elevate your hitbox and you will not go under it. So if you get in a bad position and you think you cannot run around her correctly, dodge. The dodge is just as effective as walking around her is. And if you get a little bit more comfortable with the setup, and with the boss not blocking, you can hit more than once. But this boss blocks sometimes, and other times she doesn't. And right then, that fight looked easy. But it's not, guys. It took me an hour and a half to do that. All because I was getting bummed by stupid shit. And I can understand if you're having problems, because it's a very tricky encounter. But if you do it like I did it just then, by baiting the running attack, punishing it and getting away, it is pretty simple. All you need is a bit of luck, a good pattern, and then at the end, you will get an achievement for doing it, because there's an achievement for beating Lust without killing Usil, and that's exactly what we just did. So thank you for watching. I hope the video helps, and I hope the guide is helping. But ultimately, you take care now.